Real Madrid travels to the Basque part of Spain to face a tricky opponent in Real Sociedad. Real Sociedad has produced some of the best Spanish talent, including Spanish center back Martinez, Xabi Alonso, and Antoine Griezmann. Their academy is rated the 6th best in Europe, with a great emphasis on developing homegrown talent and keeping them at the club. Real Sociedad qualified for the Champions League last season by finishing 4th after an incredible season. Sociedad went as far as to finish above last year's finalists Inter Milan in the group after going undefeated in the Champions League this season, but ultimately ended up getting knocked out to Mbappe's PSG in the round of 16. Sociedad is a tricky side. They play with a lot of courage and never say die attitude, and when we played against them at the Bernabeu 7 months ago, we were able to get the 3 points from an incredible strike by Federico Valverde and a late goal by Joselu, with both goals assisted by Fran Garcia, who hasn't seen much time. But in that match, Kubo absolutely destroyed us, as do most former Real Madrid players. Real Sociedad doesn't have the potential to play in the Champions League next season, since there's such a big gap between them and the 4th place team. However, they do have a lot to play for, because finishing 5th or 6th in La Liga would mean you would either finish in the Europa League or in the Conference League, which potentially could be huge revenue for Sociedad as a football club, and with the margin of error being so small between them and Isco's Real Betis. Now, the Real Madrid fans have their sights set on Bayern Munich, with us facing Bayern for the 27th time on Tuesday. As things stand, we're 11 points clear at the top of La Liga, with only 6 games to go. But the big key for Real Madrid is which players get rest and which players are going to be played in that game against Sociedad on Friday. Traditionally speaking, Carlo Ancelotti doesn't like a lot of rotation in his squad. With both Carvajal and Ferland Mendy being rested against Barcelona, we can expect them to play a few minutes, because not playing them since the Manchester City game would be such a long layoff between games, and they would potentially lack match sharpness. In the Clásico, Eder Militao did come on in the 74th minute, which is a little bit more time than we are accustomed to seeing him play, and he came on in place of Rodrigo, who should start against Bayern, and who potentially would also be starting in this match. But the big question remains is, will Eder Militao start in this game, or can we expect him to come off the bench again against Sociedad? Real Sociedad is not in great form right now. They have only 1 win from their last 3 matches. And the last 2 games that they drew were against Getafe and Almeria, which aren't exactly very tough opposition. And Kubo hasn't started their last 2 games, who's their key player, but he did come on as a substitute in their last 2 games. But we should and we can expect Mason Greenwood to start. And generally speaking, those two starting together have given us a handful. Sociedad likes to play a 4-2-3-1, and they like to press the ball very high up the pitch. So unlike the other teams that we're used to playing in La Liga that sit in a deep block, Sociedad really likes to bring the game to their opponent, especially when they're playing at home. So in this game, there will be a huge potential for opportunities in transition for players like Bellingham, Rodrigo, and Vinny. This game has so many implications for the rest of the season between us securing La Liga and getting the players the match sharpness that they need ahead of Tuesday. There are so many players in this match who we can expect Carlo Ancelotti to go back to Tchouaméni and Rudiger at center back, and others have been calling for Tchouaméni to start at the 6. And given how well Nacho has played at center back against City, he seems to be in good form and capable of taking on those big matches. But the big thing for me in this match is also giving minutes to players who don't get to play every day. Players like Arda Güler. We haven't seen him play a lot of minutes, and having Arda Güler potentially start in this game I think would be a great gesture from Carlo Ancelotti. There were scenes of Güler not celebrating with his teammates after the win against Barcelona and the Clásico. And from all the footage we've seen from training, from the Real Madrid training, Güler looks like he's the truth. But there's so many matches we've been up and he hasn't come on the field whatsoever. I know Carlo has his hierarchy of players that must come on before Güler, players like Luka Modric, but you have to find a way to give Güler more minutes. He was injured during a key part of the season and he was never really able to earn Carlo's trust. But we're in a position now where he can get more time, and this is great exposure. If he wants to build a career at Real Madrid, he needs to get this type of exposure early on. Now, the other thing to talk about in this game is, over the last few games, we've seen how Rodrigo has looked against Manchester City when he's played off the left versus when he plays a more right forward role. He just seems so much more comfortable playing off of the left, and I know that's how Carlo set up against City, and it just seemed to work well for him. So I'm not sure if he's planning to play the same way against Bayern Munich. If he is, then this would be a great game to play Rodrigo off the left and Vinny more centrally, to give them that more fluidity and that comfort and continuity. It just seems like Rodrigo has been frustrated in the games that he's played in that right forward role. So I'll be keeping an eye out for this game. Hopefully we can get the win, and that would just bring us that much closer to winning the league and playing Bayern Munich at the Bernabeu in 2 weeks as champions of Spain. I've done a ton of research on Bayern Munich. I have an extensive video coming out this weekend on the clash between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, with a full analysis of how we can exploit them and defeat Bayern Munich. So if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do so and like this video to stay up to date with all the latest Real Madrid news. Thank you for watching. Hala Madrid.